Okay, I am live, and for those of you who are watching the playback, for the first few moments here, I'm not going to go straight into it. I'm going to give people a chance to come and join me live, and I'm also going to try and share the link so people can find us right now. And so just give me a moment to do that. Let me turn the volume off on computer so I don't get the feedback. Sorry, for those of you who have to wait, hopefully it won't be too long. Okay. Okay, so I guess next I need my list of questions. So let's see here. A number of you, oh, maybe I should introduce myself for those of you who don't know. I'm Tasha with Butterfield Alpaca Ranch, and today's live broadcast is all about answering your questions. And a number of you have submitted some really good questions, and funny enough, some of them I'm actually answering more in depth in future videos that I've already made. So it's nice to know I was on the right track with some of these topics. And I see that a few of you are already on live, so go ahead and say hi in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Tell me where you're from. Just kind of give me an idea of who I am talking to live right now. Unless you have questions for me live, I'm just going to go ahead and start answering some of the ones that were previously asked. I also went through the Facebook page for questions, other videos besides the live Q&A video that I was asking for questions, and also some of the messages that I've gotten from some of the viewers that have questions as well. So let's go into the first one. What kind of tools do you use to scoop poop? And this person actually had 3 questions. So that was the first one. And this is one of those videos that I've already shot footage for, and I think because this question was asked, I'm going to bump that up to be early in January, not quite sure about the date, but I do show you exactly how I take care of the poop. And one of the main questions, Adeline, alpacas in Ohio, hi! One of the main tools that I use is a rake that is not very wide, I mean maybe less than a foot wide, and it works really well for scooping up the beans. If you've ever seen alpaca poop, and if you haven't, just wait till that video and you'll see that it's actually in little bean form, and we call the poop beans. So a little rake works really well to move those beans around, make a pile, and then you can move the pile either by a shovel or, well, there's different types of shovels. Actually, I'll show you a couple of those in the video that's coming up. Hi! Your name just went away, but you said a big hi. Hello! So be on the lookout for that video in a couple of weeks. The next question, do you only use llamas as guardians? I do in my setup right now. The other animal you can use as guards are dogs, but specific breeds of dogs. Great Pyrenees and Marimas, I don't know if I'm quite saying that right. Those are 2 dog breeds that alpaca owners use because they're actually guard dogs. They're not herd dogs, they're not sheep dogs. Their instinct is to actually guard. And if you do a Google search for either of those breeds and alpaca, then there'll be a lot of people talking about their experience with those breeds. And in the future, I do plan on getting them, but with the way things are established right now, it's just not the right timing for me to get dogs. And in the meantime, I'm using the llamas. One day when I get dogs, we'll go into that. Yes. I don't even know how to say your name. Okay, anyway, yeah. Hi, who's making a comment? It is very interesting. Llamas have a natural guard instinct, far more then I wouldn't say alpacas have a natural guard instinct. Having both animals, it's interesting that they're cousins, and physically they have a lot of similar characteristics, food-wise, you know, medical-wise, a lot of similarities, but there are things that are innate to each animal that are pretty different. And llamas, in general, have a good guard instinct. And what'll happen, in my case, I have coyotes in the area. And if they should come into the pasture, one of the animals, alpaca or llama, will make an alarm call. And if you go back to Bridget's video, for those of you who know, I have a playlist of Pack Tuesday videos called Alpaca of the Week. For most of the year, each week, I feature one animal in my herd. So go find Bridget's video, and in there I go more into depth, and you can actually hear what this call sounds like, because Bridget's a llama. And someone in the herd is going to make that sound. So everyone's going to be on alert. What'll happen is the alpacas all kind of clump together, herd together, just to kind of protect one another. And if a coyote should be approaching them, an alpaca is more prone to turn and run, whereas a llama will chase that coyote out of the pasture. And if the llama should catch up, it will attempt to stomp it to death. Now this works if it's just one coyote. If it's a group of coyotes, I forget what you call that. Would that also be a herd of coyotes? Whatever it is. That would be a different situation, and that's where you would want guard dogs. That would certainly help, and the llamas and the dogs would work together to guard. Let's see, there was a live question that I just missed. Let me see if I can see on my screen here what that question was. Okay, while I'm waiting for the internet to do its thing, I'll go on to the next question. Do you trim females' teeth? Yes, you actually trim all alpacas' teeth and llamas. Alpacas and llamas, they only have teeth on the bottom. They have just a firm palate across the top, so only teeth on the bottom, and their teeth grow on a regular basis. And at the rate at which they grow is going to depend on each animal, but they do need to be trimmed down regularly. Typically once a year at shearing they get done. If it's an animal that needs another trim throughout the year, then if you have the equipment, you could do that too. But I think this question, since it talked about females, may be in regards to the fighting teeth. Boys have fighting teeth. So they don't have teeth on their top palate, like all alpacas do, but in the back they'll have more like pointy canine teeth. They'll have one on each side near the back. And so when the boys are fighting, they'll use those teeth to cut each other. And so what we'll do for the boys is we'll just shave off that tip so it's blunt, and when they're playing around or fighting, they can't hurt each other. And with the boys, yeah, you do when they're young, but they may grow back or become sharp again. So throughout their life, you periodically check that those are still in a safe condition for the other animals. Okay, I did see a question, who is my favorite alpaca? My favorite alpaca is Thor, and he also has a video. So if you go back and watch that, you'll understand why. If you saw the video I did on how to handle the loss of an alpaca, I talk about Cedra. She was my most favorite alpaca of all time. Thor is her son, and he has a lot of similar qualities to his mom. So because of his personality, and also because he's the child of Cedra, that makes him my favorite. But go watch his video. Everyone who comes to the ranch and meets Thor also loves him, so it's not just, you know, a super me thing. Everyone loves Thor. Okay, let me see if I can get that question back up. I don't know. Is there another way? Oh, okay. I see how I can see the questions. Okay, so there was a question from Jessica. I think this is regarding the llamas and if they guard other livestock as well. And the answer is yes. Alpacas will bond themselves to a herd of animals and protect them. Liam, who also has a video, now guards Icelandic sheep. And he does it by himself. And the reason I sold him is because he was not bonded to my herd, and that was because he was a mama's boy. His mama had Gus, and so she no longer was giving Liam the attention that he wanted, and because he wasn't bonded to my herd, he was getting into trouble. So I found him a job. Llamas need a job. They need something to do and keep them occupied. So they can guard goats, sheep, all kinds of livestock. And like I said, they will bond themselves to a group of animals. You can find lots of stories about that. If you have alpacas, since they are babies, can try to hurt you? You mean like the mothers? Mothers can be very, very protective. And depending on the mom, the degree of protection will be little or a lot. But if you are interacting with your alpacas on a regular basis, you're handling them, you've halter trained them, you regularly interact, and they know to trust you, then when they have babies, you are far less likely to be hurt. Some animals may just be aggressive, and you'll have to maybe try and snatch the baby and then do what you need to do. But in most cases, that's not what happens. If you have really interacted with your herd, then yes, they learn to trust you. Again, in that video where I talk about handling the loss of an alpaca, I talk about start answer. And when she had Belle, I was the only one that she trusted. I tell her backstory about why that is. But I was the one that cared for her every day. She had not had a lot of interaction with other people, but she learned to trust me. And yeah, I talk about that in that video if you want to go hear more about that. So that was start answer. And like I said, I haven't had negative experiences with moms and the babies. I have had experiences with aggressive moms being like overly protective, and especially towards guests who come to the ranch. And I know who those moms are, and you know you know how to keep your guests safe from overprotective moms. But with me, I have not had any negative experiences with the moms trying to be mean to me or overly protective where she's gonna hurt me. Okay, how or when can you train alpacas? There are a number of resources for training alpacas. Halter training, one I can think of specifically, what is it called? The Camelid Companion. That's a book. Marty is the author's first name. Marty McGee. And it's like a revolutionary approach to how to halter train and actually train in general. I have the book, and there's also seminars, like interactive, where you get to train alpacas or llamas, interactive seminars where you get to do hands-on of what's in the book. And I have the book, and what's amazing about this is it starts off by getting you in the mindset of a camelid. So camelid's the family that llama and alpacas come from, so we just say camelid. And so you learn how they think, and therefore when you're interacting with them, of course, you're going to interact in a way that they respond to the best. And that helps a lot with the halter training, but also kind of training in general. Llamas and alpacas are very smart. You can train them to do a lot of things. In the show circuit for llamas, there's obstacle courses. You can teach them how to do that. Fun things like that. But obviously, just interacting with them on a regular basis, having routine, they learn. At feeding time, I have certain animals that I like to go in stalls for various reasons. And they have learned, follow the bull, go in their stall, and do their thing. And so there's different avenues you can do for training. I think there was a question about trust. If alpacas generally trust, I'm going to say alpacas are cautious and very curious at the same time. Think of their behavior more like cats. They like attention, they like affection, but they want it on their terms. So don't expect them to be super cuddly. And some of them by nature will be. Their personality might lean more towards that. But in general, they're standoffish until they get to know you. And earning their trust is just a matter of hanging out with them. Grab a chair, sit down, just be where they're at. Let them get used to you being around and knowing that you're not a threat, you're not dangerous. And if they're your alpacas, then you're also the source of food, which they appreciate very much. And they learn that you are the caretaker and you bring good things. So it's earning their trust is just spending time with them. That when you handle them, like touching them or haltering them, when you do those things, it's not only going to result in a shot or something uncomfortable or something that they have to do, just, I guess, more thinking like a pet, just spending time with them. So they don't associate you or the halter with negative things. Just kind of mix it up a bit, and that way when you need to halter them and take them somewhere, need to give them shots, need to take them to shearing once a year, or do their toes or things like that, that they're not scared or not going to run away. Okay, I plan to have 2 alpacas and 2 sheep together. Is that okay? It's a good start. Don't expect your alpacas to guard your sheep. Okay, so there's 2 things with this. For one, 3 alpacas is better than 2 in terms of herd mentality and them feeling comfortable. The more alpacas that there are in a group, the more comfortable that each of them feel. It's just kind of the way that they think. Alpacas are strongly herd-oriented, and if you watch them just kind of interact with each other, if one starts walking off, then they all follow. You know, if one poops, they all gotta poop. Things like that. It's really interesting. So the reason with 3, not only is the group just a little bit bigger, but also if you were to lose one for some reason, you still have the 2. An alpaca by itself can be very stressed. It can be a stressful situation, and it can lead to health issues. So it is not advisable at all to only have 1. It is advisable to have 3, so if something happens to one of them, you still have 2. And as for them being with the sheep, they do get along, but you're going to have to be really diligent about parasite issues on both sides, because 2 species being together, they carry different parasites that you just need to stay on top of that. And that leads me to another question that I often get asked is about deworming. Now, in at least the American alpaca culture, we don't deworm just to deworm. If you suspect that there's an issue, you do fecal samples. You can do a test of the communal poop pile, or you can get a sample from the specific animal that you're concerned about. Have the fecal test run, which is fairly inexpensive. My vet will do it for $7. And then you'll know for sure what that animal is carrying or what may be in that group. If you took it from the communal poop pile, you'll have an idea if there's something in there that obviously you need to figure out who has the issue and take care of it. But we treat per issue rather than blanket give medicine just in case. There's a number of reasons for that, and the parasites being resistant to the meds is one of them, but also because we're still learning about camelids, at least in North America. They've only been here for 30 years. There's still a lot to learn about them, that this is just the better approach, and it's worked out really well. Okay, how much land do you have to raise alpacas? Okay, this was one of the questions that was posed. Let's see. This might be the same person, maybe a different person. The question was posted earlier. I've heard the general rule of 5 alpacas per acre, but have heard a lot of varying information on how many square feet of indoor space you need per animal. considering the animals have access to pasture at all times, barring instances of severe weather, how many square feet of indoor space do you recommend per animal? Okay, so I guess that's related but kind of different. In terms of pasture, when I first got into alpacas, I heard the number 10 alpacas per acre, which is a lot of animals for that amount of space. And I think you could do that if your pastures were very well maintained, were very lush, pristine, you took really good care of them, it was always full of wonderful grass, there was always things for them to eat. Yes, you probably could get away with that. But in most situations, that's not the case. In my experience, as this person has said, 5 per acre, I think is much more realistic. But you also need to, I'm thinking of my situation. I have a, what I call it, a dry lot by the barn. So there's no grass there, and it's a space in which I can enclose them just in there and not allow them into the pasture. And in that area, of course, I'm feeding them hay. But I think in most people's cases, you're going to have some type of space like that that does not have grass. And there are some alpaca farms in which there's no pasture at all. They're on dry lot the whole time, and they're eating hay year round. And in that situation, of course, you can get more animals in a smaller amount of space because all they're eating is hay. In regards to pastures, it's a P word still, pastures, it is highly advisable that you have a setup where you can rotate pastures so that the land gets a rest from the alpacas and the grass has a chance to grow back, but also for parasite management. See, it was related to parasites. Okay, related to for parasite management because, and this is a whole nother topic on parasites. If there should be parasites in the poop that is going to be in the pasture, because everywhere they go, there's going to be at least one communal pile, that whatever may be living in the poop pile, you want to give it a chance to die rather than the alpacas continuing to eat around it or having the possibility of being exposed or reinfected, or however you want to view it, by being on the same land constantly. So you want to rotate your pastures, at least 2, maybe 3, however you need to do it, not only for the grass to grow back, but also to get rid of any parasites that may exist in that pasture from them just being there. And there's a lot of interesting research out there. If you have land with multiple species, say you have chickens or cows or sheep or goats, things like that. There's been some research on how you actually rotate all of those different animals and how they affect the land and the parasite management on your property, in which they can actually benefit each other. So do a Google search about that. I don't have a reference at the moment to tell you, but I've even went to a seminar about that. Very interesting research. So if you're someone who plans on having a lot of animals, or you already do and you're considering adding alpacas, there are ways to kind of make the pastures the best, depending on how you manage them and your animals. Okay. Going back to the question, how much land do you have to have? Did I answer that? It really depends on how many alpacas you want to have. And like I said, highly suggest you break them down into rotatable areas. Okay, what about can you restate the question about overpasturing and the ecosystem? Alpacas are very easy on the land for a number of reasons. They have padded feet. They don't have hooves. They have toes with toenails that grow, and we have to keep those trimmed. But they have padded feet on the bottom. So they're very gentle when they walk around. When they eat the grass, they just take the tops off, which means the grass can grow back. Now the overgrazing can happen if they have favorite areas of the pasture that they like. Say there's a little batch of alfalfa growing somewhere, they're going to want to go back to that over and over again. Or if you have different types of grasses growing in your pasture, there might be one type of grass they like more than another, and they're going to overgraze that. But if you are rotating your pastures and you're staying on top of that and you're being aware of that type of behavior, then you can maintain that. Oh, I was talking about how, well, the other thing I was going to say about how alpacas are easy on the land actually has to do with their beans. Their digestive system is very efficient, highly efficient, and their beans are highly prized among gardeners and farmers because of, I can't call it a fertilizer by law, but the benefit that it brings to soil is very high, and it does not have to be composted before you use it. There's not the amount of nitrogen in it that's going to burn up plants and that type of thing. And again, go do some Google searching on that. There's a lot of great benefits for using that to add nutrients to your soil. It's just in regards to raising the alpacas with the parasites, you just have to bring some balance into that. Okay, there were some more. I've heard you mention shelters and barns made for horses work well for alpaca. What would be an ideal alpaca shelter barn? Okay, let me get some water here. I don't have a lot of experience with other animals to be able to compare shelters that are best for other animals versus alpacas. And the minimum alpaca shelter that you need is 3-sided, which is the type of shelter that my boys actually have. And the opening faces south, so it's going to block the north wind and keep them safe from snow and rain. And I have a lean-to off the south end, so they can, say it's raining, they can be on the lean-to looking out, but still feel almost out in the open, if you will. And they really like lean-tos. Whatever shelter you have, make sure there's a lean-to or some kind of canopy or like a carport or something like that. They love being out in the open. They prefer being outside rather than inside. But you do want to provide protection from rain or snow accumulating and that type of thing. That I definitely have learned. In regards to the a horse barn. The barn that was on the property when I bought mine was designed for horses, and it worked in the sense that it had stalls already set up, 3 nice stalls in there. They're 10 by 10 size, and the sides, like the panels of each of the stalls, were pretty high, which means that even when I have intact boys in there with girls, say it's breeding time, and I'm trying to keep them separated until I want to actually put a pair together, those high panels mean that the boys, no matter how excited they are, can't get over to a girl that I don't want him to be with. But alpacas, being strongly herd-oriented animals, need to see one another. So a horse barn in which it has solid walls of stalls or solid doors, that is not going to be good. I was grateful in my barn that they did like pipes, like the pipe look kind of panels in there, but it's very strong because it was made for horses, which is great for when the llamas get all excited. If you've been up close to a llama, you almost think they're a horse. But if you were looking at a horse barn, you don't want solid walls or solid doors, solid panels, solid gates, nothing like that. You want it all to be open to where the alpaca at one end can see the alpaca at the other, Because at some point, you're going to have to isolate an alpaca, whether they're sick, whether they're new to your place, and you want to make sure they're not bringing any parasites onto your property. There's going to be situations where you need to isolate an alpaca. And in that case, it needs to be where they can also see the rest of the herd, or at least a few other alpaca, or else they're going to stress. So I guess in a horse barn, that would be the only caution I would give. And thinking through barn situations, what I understand to be the best scenario for alpacas is an open concept inside and to have movable panels. That way, as the needs of your herd change, you can adjust pens for whatever your needs may be, and that really is the best way to go. Sorry, just trying to read through all the comments. Okay. You're welcome, Adeline Alpacas. Thank you for your compliment. Sell alpacas in France. I can't say personally for sure, but I know they're in Germany. I know they're in Switzerland. I don't know why they wouldn't be in France unless there's some law that would prevent that, but I would think yes. I would think yes. Okay, I'm going to do just a couple more questions. We're already at the half-hour mark, but I do want to get in. Okay, my husband and I are planning to buy an alpaca farm by next summer. Is there any advice you can offer me? I have one of my cats coming. Hi, honey. Just don't knock over the camera. Ooh, here. She probably wants some attention. Look at her. Oh, yes, she's pretty. Hi, this is Charlie. Okay. Oh, yes. So, advice for those of you who are anticipating getting alpacas, this is what I would say to you. Visit a bunch of alpaca farms. Visit as many as you can. You can go to alpacainfo.com. That is the Alpaca Owners Association website. And there's a search engine in there that will guide you to alpaca farms near you. Also, openherd.com has a search engine, and alpacanation.com. So those are 3 websites where you can go find alpaca farms near you. Go and visit, see their setup, hear the story of the owners, how they got into it, what they've learned, what they would advise you. Because some of the answers are going to be specific to your local area or country. And the websites I just gave are for United States. Sorry for those of you who are international. And I also recommend finding a place that will let you help out with chores, actually do some hands-on experience, maybe wrangle them for shots, or next spring help out with shearing, things along those lines, because just watching alpacas on video or seeing them at some festival does not give you the real life perspective of what you are getting into. Someone else asked a question of, do I ever get a holiday? Only if I have someone who can take care of my animals. And for a lot of alpaca owners, that is one of the things that keeps them from taking vacations is they don't have people to take care of their animals when they're gone. And unfortunately, I have lost a couple of alpacas while I'm out of town and someone else take care of them. In both those situations, it was like an elderly alpaca that just passed on its own. It wasn't like a medical emergency kind of thing. But those are horrible. You don't want to leave that kind of situation to anyone else. But get hands-on experience, because you may find that it's not what you expected and it's not a good fit. Or you may find that it's the exact thing you're looking for and it makes you all the more excited and like the big green light to move forward. With alpacas, I also recommend that you do a lot of research. Scour the internet for all the information that you could possibly find, even if you have other livestock, because alpacas are pretty unique and they're pretty new, at least to North America. It honestly was not that long ago when Peru started exporting alpacas to the rest of the world. So even alpaca industries like in Australia and Europe and China's gotten into it. I mean, all these industries are fairly young, and there's a lot that we need to learn. So do a lot of research, and I'm trying with this channel and with the website I'm developing to be a good resource for those of you who are in this research phase. But don't skimp the research. Don't move too fast. Do your due diligence. Okay? That's what I'd say. And let's see. Yeah, that was my advice for that. I think I'm about to wrap up. Okay, I'm going to make this the last question. It's a good fiber question. Is it true that the best quality fiber of alpacas is the back? Yes, the back along with the sides, and it's what we call the blanket. So along the spine and then going down the sides, and at some point on the lower sides, the fiber starts to change into what is growing on the belly. And so to the trained eye and to most shearers who have experience, they're going to see where that distinction is made from the blanket and the belly fiber. But that blanket goes all the way up to the neck and all the way back to the tail. That actually is the best. It's the prime, some people call it prime, part of the animal. So that is where the best fiber grows. And when you shear your animals, you want that to be sheared off separate from everything else and bagged separately, because you're going to process it separately and it's going to become different things. All the fiber is useful for something. The neck fiber is usually pretty good, secondary to the blanket, but still pretty good. And then the chest, belly, and leg tends to go together because that's going to have a lot more guard hair, more coarse fibers. I mean, you can imagine, just scientifically, it makes sense that those areas are going to have lesser quality fiber because they're laying on their bellies when they're cushed. Even their chest is going to come up against a lot more stuff when they're grazing or when they're cushing, and of course the legs. So naturally those fibers are going to be more coarse because they're protecting the body in very important areas. Next spring when I shear, hopefully I can show you more of that specifically. I'm actually going to be hosting a workshop, a shearing workshop. So that'll be really good, and I'm hoping that the person who's putting this on, who's going to come in and teach, is actually going to allow me to film some of it for you. I will do my best, but that's going to be next May. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say this is the end of our first live Q&A session. I think it went really well. I thank you all for joining me. We had a number of viewers, and I thank all of you who are watching the replay as well. If you have questions for future live Q&As, which I will be doing on a regular basis, just go ahead and comment below, and I will get to them next time. Okay, so have a great day. Bye.